Hi BookTube, happy Sunday, and welcome to another weekly reading vlog. It is the 31st of May, and it is just after 9 at night, and I'm getting ready to go to bed in a few minutes. But I am sitting here in the book room, and I was doing a bit of knitting, and I've got some water. I'm going to have some water before I go to bed. I've got to get better on drinking water. I've been so bad about doing that lately. I'm home all day. I've got absolutely no excuse, but I keep forgetting to drink water. But regardless, that's not why we're here. So like I said, this is the start of another weekly reading vlog, and I do have a book that I finished today that, of course, I wanted to share that with you guys. So today I finished reading Secrets from a Happy Marriage by Maisey Yates. So this book I ended up giving 4 stars to. I enjoyed it, so thank you to NetGalley and the publisher for sending me an e-art copy of this to review. I did listen to it on audio. I went ahead and bought the audiobook, or used a credit to get the audiobook, and it was really, really delightful. This, I believe, is Maisey Yates' first work of women's fiction, and she did a really good job on it. The story is not necessarily, there's kind of a lot going on in this book. Sorry for the glare with my glasses. There's a lot going on with this book. So primarily it's about 2 sisters named Rachel and Anna. And Rachel just lost her husband. He'd been sick for many, many years, but they're quite young. He was only 40 and she was only 39. So he passed away quite young. And they have a daughter by the name of Emma. And Emma's just about to turn 18 and graduate from high school. And then Anna is the younger sister, Rachel's younger sister, and she has just had a falling out with her marriage. I don't want to get into what it was. And so the 2 of these women are kind of now at a crossroads. And, as the story unfolds, as time goes on, they learn how to deal with their new normal, essentially. And so it's told in several different perspectives. It's not told in first person per se, but each section of the book has Rachel, Anna, Emma, from the different perspective of each of the characters as the story kind of progresses. And Rachel's going through some things, not Rachel, Emma, of course, with her father's death, and, going off to college and not wanting to disappoint her mom or leave her mom, stuff like that. A lot of heavy topics are in this book. But Maisey Yates did a really great job with it, I think. It wasn't one of the best ones that I've read, but I do enjoy her writing a great deal, and I like her characterization. My biggest issue with this is that there is a topic in this book that is prevalent throughout the book, and that's adultery. And that is something I just always have an issue with. I'm sorry. And it's going to be a sore subject for me. And I can never really rate a book higher when one of the main characters has something to do with it. Again, I don't want to give away too much, but it's a couple of the main characters in this book actually deal with it. And they are, I don't know how else to put this. They commit it, I guess. And, if it's a character you're not supposed to really like, that's one thing, but when it's a character you're supposed to empathize with and stuff like that, I do have a difficult time with that. I get being unhappy in a relationship. I absolutely can understand that and empathize with that. Not me personally in my relationship right now, but we've all been there, you know what I mean? And my bigger issue is the fact that perhaps you need to walk away from the relationship first before you make that decision to do something. And I think that's my biggest caveat. Being someone who was on the other end of it with a previous relationship, I know what it feels like to have that done to you. And it's hard, so yeah. So in my opinion, there's never a good reason, but that's just me. So anyway, I don't want to get into a whole thing about it. Everybody's got their own opinion, and this is just mine. And, that's one of the beauty things about reading, is that in books, we all have our own personal experiences that we can draw from when reading a book. And I might take certain things in a book a different way than you will, right? So that's kind of my main takeaway from it. And that's why I didn't give it 5 stars. But I did really enjoy it. The writing was great. Like I said, the characters were fantastic. The setting was brilliant. It was at this beautiful lighthouse. And I follow Maisey Yates on Instagram, and she talked a lot leading up to the release of this book on where she got the inspiration for the story, and from staying at this lighthouse bed and breakfast in Oregon where she lives, and that's kind of where this takes place, in a fictionalized small town, much like the one that she stayed in. And there is a tiny bit of adult content in here. A lot of it is like a not fade to black per se. There is some stuff in there, but compared to if you've read Maisey Yates's contemporary work, it's nowhere near as graphic as that. So, you know, it's very minute, and, you know, it's not long and drawn out like it normally is in her contemporaries, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so 4 stars. I mean, absolutely worth your time. I know that there was a discussion on some of the ladies I talk with on Vox, or I can't remember, somebody was mentioning that they were going to talk about this one for a book club, and it was kind of thumbs down because everybody's kind of used to Maisey Yates being a contemporary romance cowboy author, right? And after now reading the book, I can say this would actually be a really good book club book. You know, there are a lot of talking points in this book, a lot of different things going, death of a spouse, adultery, you know, kids growing up. And even for those who are a bit younger, like, you know, those who are leaving high school, going off to college, that whole discussion about, do you follow your dreams or do you try and stay and help your family? I mean, there's, like I said, there's a lot going on in here, and I really think it would be good for a book club, to be completely honest. But anyway, those are just my 2 cents. So that's all I really got for today, you guys. I have, I've done up my list of books I hope to finish in the next week or so, and I've got some good ones coming up. Tomorrow, for the 1st of June, I will be starting off my month with a Eloisa James, and I'll be reading on, listening on audio to the first in the Wildes of Landau Castle series, the Wilde in Love book, so I'm looking forward to that. And I will also be starting a YA contemporary, because why not? And that will be 10 Things I Hate About Pinky by, I believe it's Sandhya Menon is the author, so I'm looking forward to that as well. So I don't predict I'll get either of those done tomorrow, but I will probably check in with you guys on Tuesday. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. Hi guys, it's Tuesday. It is June the 2nd, and it's about 5:30 at night. And I just got home not that long ago, and I finished a book today, so I thought I would pop on here and share that with you guys. So, update on kind of what's been going on. I started my new job today. I had my first day at the, as a professional house cleaner, essentially. And guys, I was super nervous going in. I don't know why, but I think no matter what it is that you're doing, if it's something new, you tend to get a little bit nervous. And I shouldn't have been. I mean, it was fantastic. It wasn't at all stressful. I mean, it wasn't an easy peasy job. I mean, you're lifting, you're walking up and down stairs, you're cleaning. I mean, cleaning is not super easy. If it was super easy, there would be no professional cleaners and everybody would just do it. But it was really, in a way, rewarding. And I know that might sound silly to some people, but like, I worked a corporate office job for 20 years behind a desk. And every day it just seems like I would come in and I would work all day and have nothing to show for it, because I'd come back in the next day and it would be all the same thing. You know what I mean? You know, you're dealing with problems in and out. These problems aren't easily fixable, you know, things like that. Whereas this, when I was done, I felt like I accomplished something. And, you know, I know what it's like to come home to a house that's clean. When I was working and Garrett wasn't, we kind of had, like, you know, he was home, and so he would do the vacuuming and the dishes and the cleaning and all those things. And there was just something about coming home and having it already done that was just so, takes a weight off your shoulders. Does that make sense? It was so, so nice. And to think that I did that for somebody else today with a team. I mean, it wasn't just me cleaning, you know, one house. I was working with a team today, and they were pretty much showing me the ropes. There wasn't actually a lot that I did, starting tomorrow, obviously, because I'll be working all this week. So yeah, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. And not that, you know, I'm woo going to work, but I think I'm happier here than I ever was, making probably double the money in, you know, an office job. So it goes to show you to do something that, you know, not necessarily that you enjoy, but that you enjoy more than something else, right? So anyway, on to the book. Sorry, I just have to switch hands here. There we go. Okay. So I really need to get one of those selfie sticks. It'd be so much easier. So the book that I finished today was Wilde in Love by Eloisa James. It is the first book in the Wildes of Lindau Castle series, and this was absolutely delightful. So it's about a man who goes by the name of Eric and a woman by the name of Willa. It's Alaric, I think is his name, but I think most people call him Eric. And he is the spare. You know, there's the heir and the spare. And actually, he's the third brother. The oldest brother died, and then the second in line is going to eventually become the Duke. Right now, their father is still alive. So he's kind of third in line. So he's been traveling the world having all these adventures. And he's been writing these books all about his travels. Well, London has romanticized his travels, and he has become a celebrity of sorts in London. And there are prints made of him, like, you know, drawings of his adventures, which are very fictionalized for these drawings, like him fighting a polar bear, or him swinging from vines, or him, you know, like, stuff like that. So, and it's funny because all these younger girls, you know, younger, and just before they're about to enter society, have these pictures of him, or these prints of him, because obviously there'd be no pictures. This was the late 1700s is when it takes place, I think 1793. And they have prints of him all over their bed chambers, as it says. And it's a story of him and Willa, and he meets Willa, and the two of them kind of, she thinks he's just, like, he's not as great as he says he is. She, you know, not that he says he is. He doesn't like all this hype at all. He actually really hates it. The celebrity, if you will. And, you know, she thinks he kind of really likes it. And so they're at odds with each other, and it was a really, really cute story, and I really liked it. But the one thing I wanted to say on it, and that I found with a lot of Regency romances, not all of them, but a lot of them, is that modern Regency romances, and those of you who read them might understand what I'm trying to say, is that I don't feel like they're really grounded in reality a lot of the time. This, sorry if my camera is focusing in and out. Let's try and fix that. There we go. So, sorry if it was focusing in and out for a bit there, you guys. I just happened to notice out of the corner of my eye. Is that these are not grounded in reality. You know, they might take place in 1793 or whatever the year is. It might take place in London or in the countryside. And society might be holding to a certain set of societal rules that they had back then. But outside of that, like his celebrity, these prints being made of him that are on girls' bedchamber walls, that is something that is a very modern idea, but is kind of set. And I don't see it being something that would have happened back then. Does that make sense? So my thought is this, the way I've been now looking at Regency romances, like ones that are a little bit more fanciful, like this one was, is that these are almost set in an alternate reality. Like, you know, you're adhering to certain rules, but it's not quite exactly, it's not a magical realism because there's nothing magical going on, but it's just not, it's not what would have actually happened. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, authors took liberties. Absolutely, they took liberties. So, and I think in a way that they can do that if they're writing historical romances in an alternate reality, kind of. Does that make sense? And that's how I look at them. And because I know I've heard a lot of people like say, oh, you know, they're not very realistic. That's not actually what would have happened. I don't disagree. If this were actual times, you know, olden times, and, you know, this would have, a lot of these things would have never happened. But if it's not quite our reality, maybe it did. And we don't know that, right? So anyway, so that's I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I do have a physical copy around here somewhere. I haven't unpacked it yet, but I did listen to it on audio because my library had a copy available on audio. So I listened to it on there. And the narration I didn't absolutely love, but I don't mark my ratings of books based on the narration because that's a totally different ball game. When I reviewed it on Audible, I listed that I wasn't 100% happy with the narration, but I did really like the story. So anyway, so that is that. So that's about all that I have for today, you guys. I'm hoping to finish another book tomorrow, 10 Things I Hate About Pinky, by Sandhya Menon. And I looked up her name on how to say it, and that I'm saying it as close as I possibly can. I did look up an interview with her and somebody said her name and that's how it sounded. So yeah. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye. Hi guys. Happy Saturday. So it has been a hot minute since I talked to you guys last. I think it was Wednesday. And I'm still sitting in the same location I was sitting in when you saw my video from Saturday go up. So
I'm filming this before I even edit that video because I just want to get all this stuff filmed and then I can work on my editing. So, I finished 3 books since the last time I talked to you. I am rubbish this week at vlogging, and last week. It's been the last few weeks I've been so bad at vlogging, but I am going to try and keep it up, at least to do this where I just kind of sit down and wrap up what I finished reading instead of doing it all at once on a Sunday. I kind of prefer to do it this way because it breaks it up just a little bit. And as I mentioned in my video yesterday, if you didn't see it, there's some, I'm facing west, the light source here, which is the bedroom window, is facing west, so I'm getting all the sunlight and it's coming through trees. And there's 2 we have a pool, and then our backyard neighbor has a pool, so it's hitting off the trees and the pool, and it's a thing. So I apologize for, the weird lighting issues in this video, but bear with. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the 3 books that I finished since the last time I talked to you, and then I'm going to open up my minis and show you guys my blanket progress. I did get some extra knitting done on the super secret project that I'm working on. I'm hoping to have it done by this week, but I think next week I'll probably only still be showing you the blanket, but after that I should hopefully be getting into some other projects that I can show you. And like I said, I do promise I will show you the super secret project when the person receives it. So, onto the books. The first book that I finished, since I've talked to you guys last, was The Aussie Next Door by Stefanie London. I gave this one 4 stars. This book was so, so cute. If you want an adorable contemporary romance, read this book. So the story is about a woman named Angie. Sorry, I was blanking for a second there. Who had a very bad childhood. She was in the foster care system. A bunch of bad things happened to her. And there was a whole court case, and she became very well known to the American public through this court case that was all televised and yada, yada, yada. And she ends up, after a settlement, taking the money and flying to Australia, where she has been there for about 1.5 years now. And she was told that, yeah, for her work visa, she could do this, this, and this. Well, it turns out that the lawyer didn't tell her the full, or didn't look into it, whatever the case may be. She was given false information, and she now has 40 days to leave the country, unless she gets married. So this one ends up being a marriage of convenience story. The whole marriage of convenience part of the story does not happen to almost the very end. So, there's a lot of build-up leading up to it, and I really like that. So she ends up with this kind of crush on the guy she's renting a house from. Like, he's got property, and then there's like a gatehouse on the property, and she's renting that property. So his name, did I not write it down? I did not write it down. I apologize. He is a really awesome character. He's actually a high-functioning, he's got autism, but he's high-functioning. And I really like the representation of him in this story. He does have his quirks and his, things. He likes his routine. He likes, it not being disrupted. And that's, I get that. Even as someone who does not deal with autism, I am very much a routine person myself. So I absolutely empathize with him. And at the beginning of the book, his mother kind of ropes him into dog sitting these 2 dogs for another neighbor for 2 months. So you've got Angie and the guy and these 2 dogs, an older German Shepherd named Tilly, and a smaller, younger, sounds like a little poodle type dog named Truffles. And it is them in Australia. It's the end of the Australian summer, and there are barbecues and parties, and, the relationship between these 2 characters, him dealing with something that happened to him in his past as well, with an ex-girlfriend, or an ex-fiance, I should say, and then her trying to deal with the fact that she's about to she has to leave the country soon. So yeah, really delightful story. You know exactly where it's going to end when you start reading it, but it was fantastic. I listened to this one on audio. I believe I got it from Scribed, because it's not available as part of the Audible Escape pack. It's just the first book in the Patterson's Bluff series. Came out last year, but I have not seen a second book announced yet. I'm hoping that there will, because there's a lot of great secondary characters that you meet in this series, or in this book, that I'd love to see stories about. And yeah, it was really, really delightful on audio. The narrator did a great job with the American and the Australian accents. A lot of fun, highly enjoyable. And there is a bit of adult content in this one, more towards the end of the book, just so you're aware. The next one that I finished yesterday was 10 Things I Hate About Pinky by Sandhya Menon. This one got 4.5 stars. This is the 3rd book in the When Dimple Met Rishi universe. So they're not a series per se, they're companion novels, which is how I classify a lot of contemporary romance anyway. You don't have to have necessarily read the stories before to get this one. but they're all part of like a companion series. So this is the story of Pinky and Samir. And Pinky, it's a YA novel, of course, and she is very outgoing. She has a lot of causes. She's trying to save the world, essentially. And Samir and her don't really get along. He is like fast tracking it to Harvard to become a corporate lawyer. And so anyway, every summer, Pinky and her family go to this, where they live in California, to this house that the family owns in Cape Cod. And they spend 2 months in Cape Cod. And something happens, and Pinky lies about the fact that she's got this very upstanding boyfriend, because every boyfriend she's ever had before has been like a delinquent, for lack of a better term. And so she lies to her mom. Well, Samir had headed off to Washington to do an internship at a corporate law firm, which ended up falling through at the last minute after he'd arrived in Washington. So he didn't know what to do with himself. So he ends up going to Cape Cod to pretend to be Pinky's fake boyfriend, and the story goes from there. It was super cute. I did have a few issues with it. One of them was the fact that Samir didn't tell his mom, because his mother's very, very overprotective. Didn't tell his mom that he was going to Cape Cod, that he wasn't going to be in Washington. And my initial thought as an adult was, A, who's paying for your plane ticket from Washington to Cape Cod? I through reading the story, you know that all these characters come from family, like they have money. Like Pinky's, both of her parents are lawyers, things like that. They're not, hurting or, in any way. But it's still, my question would be, who's still paying for that plane ticket? He's 17. And who's paying for him over the course of the summer? His spending money, even if he's staying at Pinky's parents' place, they're still, if they go out or they do whatever, you know what I mean? Like, as an adult, these are the things going through my mind. But yeah, that was just one of the little things that kind of bothered me just a bit. Also, some of Pinky's attitude throughout the book. I mean, she had a very tumultuous relationship with her mother. And as someone who also had that as a teenager, I totally empathized with her. But she also seemed to be very defensive around everybody, regardless. That everyone seemed to be out to get her is what I got off of her attitude. But I still did like her. She had a great dry sense of humor, and, she was trying to find her own footing in the world, and I get that. And, I've got to remember that this is someone who's still learning and still growing, because she is only a teenager. And the other thing, too, was the relationship issues between Pinky and her mom, where it seemed to be wrapped up very, very quickly at the end. But outside of that, this is an absolutely delightful novel. If you like YA contemporary, you need to read this author. Start with When Dimple Met Rishi, move on to There's Something About Sweetie, and then come into this one. Again, you don't have to read them in order, but you need to read all of them because they're utterly delightful, and I highly recommend them. And last but not least, just today, I finished The Sum of All Kisses by Julia Quinn. This is the third book in the Smythe-Smith Quartet. So I'm almost on this series. I only have one more to go. This book, I talked about this in my Friday Reads. It actually is replacing the Alice Network. I'm not going to be reading that one. I read this one instead because I needed it for a challenge, for the Amazing Race Challenge. And like I said, third in the series. So the Smythe-Smith is a offshot of the Bridgertons. The Bridgertons actually make a guest appearance in this one, along with a lot of characters that you might have met in the Bridgertons, like my beloved Lady Danbury. Somebody posted on Facebook a long time ago, who's the one character or one actor when they pop into a movie, you immediately get excited because you didn't know that they were going to be there, or like a TV show, go, oh, hey, that person, Lady Danbury is that character to me. Anytime she makes like this appearance, if you've read the Bridgertons, you know why. She's this older lady in her 80s who says what she thinks and doesn't care about the consequences. She's always wrapping her cane like on the floor, and if you're not careful, your foot's going to get caught up underneath it. She's just utterly delightful, and she makes an appearance in the story too. So this is the story of, what are our main characters' names? Oh, I just finished it earlier today. Sarah, I should know that. Sarah and Hugo. And they don't particularly like each other. There is some backstory with, I don't want to get into what it is because it kind of ties into the other two books. Again, you don't necessarily need to read these in order, but maybe you should, just to kind of get like the plot line as the way the overarching kind of story goes. And they don't particularly like each other, but her cousin is getting married and he's a friend of the family. So they're kind of paired up with each other at the wedding, and a relationship kind of ensues, as they tend to do in these books, a lot quicker than normal because it is Regency England. So, if they are caught in a room together alone, it's improper, and now all of a sudden they're engaged to be married, when maybe they were just talking about what they were serving for dinner. You know, like, it's the time period, right? It was a lot of fun. Again, classic Julia Quinn, great witty banter. Again, Lady Danbury was in it, and some of the Bridgertons make an appearance. The whole story centers around 2 separate weddings, so that part of it's delightful. I really, really liked both Sarah and Hugo as characters, and Sarah's younger sisters, Frances and Elizabeth, were delightful. There's another, what was the other one? Henrietta, I think, was the third sister, and the youngest one, I think it was Henrietta, is writing a play, and it involves unicorns. And there's a whole scene where her and Hugo are discussing the merits of, are there actually unicorns or not? Are they really a thing? And she's arguing to him, like, she says, well, I've never seen a lion, but yet there's lions. And he's like, well, other people have seen lions. She goes, then how do you know other people haven't seen unicorns? The exact conversation you'd probably have with an 11-year-old about such a topic. So yeah, so anyway, really, really fun. I really enjoyed it. I believe I gave this one 4 stars. I haven't completely sat down to do my rating yet, but it's going to be either 4 or 4.5 stars. Probably edging more towards a 4 because, well, I really, really enjoyed it. Wasn't one of the best Julia Quinns I've read, you know, but still really enjoyable. So that's all I have for my reading. So let's get into my knitting. So I finished 5 books this week, you guys. Not too shabby, not too shabby. So here is my bag of minis. So let's see if we can do these in order that I read them, just like I did last week. I can't read my own handwriting, guys. It's so bad. So the first one that I finished was the last book for May, and that was Secrets from a Happy Marriage by Maisey Yates, who's amazing. Amazing, amazing. Oh, another one from Lynn. Oh, that's pretty. Excuse me, just a solid pink. It's like a cotton candy, isn't it? It's super pretty. Oh, I really like it. Next book that I finished was Wilde in Love by Eloisa James, the first book in the Wilds of Lindau Castle series. I enjoyed. All the books this week have been like 4 stars and above, which is absolutely fantastic. It's been a great reading week for me. I may have only finished 5 books, but all the books were fantastic, so that's always a bonus. And this one, oh, just a plain gray. This one went into the most recent pair of socks that I finished. It was the contrast heel, and no, it wasn't the last pair I finished. Pair before that? Anyway, it was the contrast color that I used for the heel and the cuff. So yeah, just a plain gray. It's Knit Picks palette, if anyone's interested in what the yarn type is. Next up, I finished, oh, The Aussie Next Door was next. This one right here, The Aussie Next Door. Again, really enjoyable. If you like, you know, it was a great summer read for sure. Absolutely. Ooh, we've got all solid color. That's really blowing out the screen. It's not that bright. It's a little more muted than that, but isn't that pretty? I believe this is a No Makers, and I believe the colorway is called Sun. No doubt. Very pretty. All solid colors. Let's see if we continue with the trend. And then we have 10 Things I Hate About Pinky. Oh, no, we stopped the trend. And we got, oh, this is perfect. Because in the book, if you remember the cover that I showed for that book, she has like magenta and blue and purple hair. So how perfect is this? That's going to be so pretty. This is Woolamize. The colorway is called Hoochie Mama. Sorry if I offended anybody with that one, but that's what the colorway is. I'm just reading what it says. But yeah. Oh, that's really pretty. And last but not least, we have The Sum of All Kisses. My horrible, horrible handwriting there. Really great Julia Quinn. You cannot go wrong with a Julia Quinn novel, in my opinion, you guys. And we have another, oh, close to, yeah, it's pretty close to being a solid. It's more of not a variegated, it's a tonal, what they would say a tonal, with the different shades of pink. So this is British Yarns. It's Enchanting Sock, and the colorway is called Strawberries and Cream. Isn't that pretty? Oh, that's going to be lovely. So we start with a light pink and we end with a dark pink. That's always fun. So yeah, so there is all my yarns for this week. For those of you who might be new, I didn't mention at the beginning, is I am knitting a epic sock yarn blanket, doing mitered squares. And for every book that I finish this year, I am adding a new square to my blanket. So that's what that was. Just so you're all caught up now. So I think I added 6 squares to the blanket this week. I am almost at another end and ready to start another row soon. Oops. Okay, good. I almost put the blanket against one edition. That's the problem with sitting in this corner. I'm kind of like wedged in here, you guys. So that sparkly one is the last one that I put in that you guys saw last week. So I have added these two here. That That one is called Rusted Hook, and it's from Night Owl Fibers. It's very, very pretty. I got this pretty purple, this really, really pretty, like, multicolored one. This one, which was a self-striping, very pretty. I got another one of these. Mandy messaged me and she says, I have to get better to remember what yarns I gave you. I'm like, no, I want all the minis. I don't care. I don't care if they're that close to each other in the blanket. That doesn't bother me at all. And then this lovely one too, which is from a sock yarn blank, and you can tell because the yarn is all twisty and kinked up. So yeah, so it is looking awesome and I'm loving it. It's so pretty. So yeah. So that's it. Like I said, I have no other knitting to show you guys because I'm working on a super secret project. But yeah, that's about it. So anyway, guys, that is all that I have for this video today. I do hope that you enjoyed it. I know these vlogs are getting shorter and shorter. You guys are used to seeing like hour and a half, 2 hour long vlogs from me, and now we're down to like a half an hour. But I really want to keep this more as being wrap-ups. You know, I will do a little chatty here and there if I can. But I'm trying to keep that mostly to my Friday reads. But yeah, that's pretty much about all that I have for today, you guys. I hope to have more next week, maybe some more outdoor pictures. You know what I'm going to insert at the very end of this? It's the first clip that I actually took for this vlog, and I'm not talking or anything, but I got pictures of my mom's lilac bushes outside, and they're just beautiful. And they're almost dying now. Like, they don't last very long at all. So I'm going to insert that clip right after this so you guys can see some pretty flowers at the end. But I hope that you all are staying safe and you're staying well and you're taking care of yourself and your neighbors and your family and each other. And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.